Welcome to Sitcom Showdown, a podcast that reviews classic sitcom episodes and inducts them into our very own Hall of Fame. As usual, one of us has chosen a sitcom episode and the other guy has no idea what it's going to be. Will they already know it? Will they love it? Can they be convinced that it's worthy? Let's find out on Sitcom Showdown. Hello dear listener and welcome back to Sitcom Showdown. This will be episode 26. It's Jeffers here and I'm here with Steve. Go. And we've got another sitcom episode selected for you, and Steve doesn't know what it's going to be because it's my turn. This one's going to be a walk in the park, Steve. Just not only for you and I, but for the listener as well, because I've chosen an episode of Blackadder.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, this is from Series 2, and it's going to be, well, we'll explain how Blackadder works in a minute. Blackadder II, and it's a episode called Potato. Where they go on a mighty journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aha.
Should I just launch into the...
Yeah, sure.
Alright, well, the thing about Blackadder is that you've got 4 series of it, but they're different characters each time, but of course the Blackadder character is further down the lineage of that family. So Series 1 was back in, and I'll just call it medieval times because I don't know when it was set. And then Blackadder II, or Blackadder II, was set during the reign of Queen Elizabeth I.
Yep.
And Blackadder III with Mad King George, but his son George the Regent.
Yep.
And Blackadder goes forth, of course, in the trenches of World War One. And there's always a Blackadder there, and there's always a Baldrick. And
are they the only 2 constants?
Yeah, pretty much. Because George, of course, who's in 3 and 4, isn't in 1 and 2, and Percy, who's in 1 and 2, isn't in 3 and 4. Anyhow, we've got episode 3 is Potato, and this was 1985 on the BBC.
Wow. So long ago.
It is a while back. Blimey. Yes, so in this particular series of Blackadder, Edmund Blackadder, Lord Blackadder, and there's his servant Baldrick and his friend friend is debatable, Lord Percy, an acquaintance. He's a courtier to Queen Elizabeth I, who we'll just call Queenie. And of course there's Lord Melchett, who's a very close advisor to Queenie. And I believe because Lord Flashheart said something about him being some sort of religious advisor to her as well.
Yeah, okay.
Something like that. I'm not sure. They don't elaborate on these things.
No, he's got some title.
Yeah.
That puts him close to the Queen.
Yeah. Most importantly for me, even though the cast are awesome and the show is awesome, I think attention has to be given to the writers because they are brilliant writers. We've got Richard Curtis, of course, and Ben Elton.
Cool. We're listing the writers before the actors.
Yeah, it's that sort of show. So everybody knows this, but I'll run through it anyway. We'll pick some of the stuff. Richard Curtis, of course, who I didn't know was Australian born. There you go. Mr. Bean is his. Vicar of Dibley, and not many other sitcoms that I'd like to speak of, but of course a lot of films. Name me some Richard Curtis films, Steve.
Was it Love Actually?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
They're all on the tip of my tongue.
They're on the tip of your tongue, like your 4 Weddings and all that sort of stuff. But,
that's probably the biggest one.
Yeah, and Bridget Jones, all that sort of gear. And of course Ben Elton, who we've spoken about many times on this show. Young Ones, Filthy Urchin, Cat Flap, Upstart Crow, which we both love.
Yep.
And Thin Blue Line, which is an absolute cracker of a sitcom.
Quite a catalogue.
There was also a few others, like Blessed and The Right Way, which don't get props. And I don't think they deserve props, but that's up to other people. Yes, but let's move on to the cast. And I want to cycle through this really quickly. Okay. I'm not even going to talk about Rowan Atkinson or Stephen Fry or Tony Robinson, because we don't need to. People know who they are, and if they don't, you can Google their enormous repertoire of stuff they've been in. But needless to say, Tony Robinson was otherwise known as host of Time Team. Stephen Fry was the host of QI.
Yep.
And Rowan Atkinson was, of course, Mr. Bean, and they all had some fine sketch shows they were part of as well, individually.
Yep.
So moving on to the cast of Blackadder II, we've got Miranda Richardson as Queenie, who is awesome.
Yes, very well known.
So I had a quick peek at her IMDb, and she won a BAFTA for Best Supporting Actress in 1992. She's done heaps of film. Bit of triv is that she turned down the Bunny Boiler role in Fatal Attraction that Glenn Close took. She was in another sitcom. It was called Life and Times of Vivienne Lyle. which is sort of a show within a show thing. There's a talk show host called Vivian Lyle, and that's Jennifer Saunders. It's a Jennifer Saunders creation.
Yep.
And second build is Miranda Richardson, and I'd never seen it or heard of it or anything like that. And critics have sort of said, it's not bad show. It's just not really a bunch of laughs, and it's very awkward, and it's, so maybe it was ahead of its time. Because awkwardness is all the go these days. Oh.
So she's done a mixture of drama and comedy.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe other stuff as well.
For sure. Patsy Byrne as Nursey.
Yes.
I don't remember her from anything else, and she wasn't in an awful lot. Sadly, she passed away 4 years ago. But she was in I, Claudius.
Yep.
I know you're a fan of I, Claudius.
Yes, I like I, Claudius.
Oh. And she was in the Royal Shakespeare Company in the 60s and that sort of thing, and she has been in a few other shows. Moving on to Tim McInerney, who is Percy and/or Darling in Blackadder.
Yep.
I've seen him in lots of stuff, but I couldn't remember what I'd seen him in, but I remember mostly films. Anyhow, he was in the first 2 series of Blackadder, and then he was in Blackadder Goes Forth as Captain Darling. He's actually a big fan of 1970s ITV sitcoms.
Well, how do you know that?
Well, it was in his Wikipedia entry, but he had something to say about them either in an interview or some sort of documentary or a show or something. Well, there's something happened where people were talking to him about 1970s ITV sitcoms, and I don't know, maybe there was some controversy there. So if you're interested in that, go have a look. But of course, he's been one-offs in lots of shows. So he's been in Doctor Who and Sherlock and Game of Thrones for a few episodes, etc., etc. The guest stars in this one, it's Tom Baker, otherwise known as the Fourth Doctor and the longest-serving Doctor Who. This was the first role I ever saw him in that wasn't Doctor Who. And it blew my mind when I saw that. Wow.
So he's Captain Redbeard Rum, is that right?
He totally is. Yeah. And he had a regular role in Monarch of the Glen, which is a show I'd never watched.
I did see him a couple of times in that.
Yeah. Was he good?
Yes.
Or was he Tom Baker?
Well, he's always a bit Tom Baker-ish, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's just a matter of the scale of the insanity, really, isn't it?
True. And I remember in a previous episode we said that, I asked the question, is Michael Richards the American Tom Baker? And if Michael Richards was in anything else, would he be anything other than Kramery Michael Richards? And that sitcom he did where he was a private detective, I'd argue he was just the same dude.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Tom Baker was also in Randall and Hopkirk, deceased, as a regular character. Maybe he was the ghost or something. I don't know. And recently, sometime in the last 10 years, Tom Baker was voted the world's 4th most eccentric star.
There you go. I was spot on with my craziness assertion.
I reckon so.
We were talking about Brian Blessed.
Oh, yeah.
This morning. He must be somewhere on that list, surely.
Oh, he'd have to be.
He could be in the top 3.
I reckon he could. He wasn't in the top 3.
Oh.
Björk was in the top 3.
Yuck.
Yeah. Anyhow.
They've all got B's in them.
Yeah. The other guest star is Simon Jones of Hitchhiker's Guide fame as Sir Walter Raleigh.
Yes.
So he was Arthur Dent in Hitchhiker's Guide, and that includes, radio, TV. And he had a cameo in the movie as well, the recent movie.
What a pedigree this episode's got based
the cast.
Purely on the cast.
Oh, it's a brilliant cast. A lot of them are going on to knighthoods and all sorts of things.
Well, they were all a bit edgy back in these days, weren't they?
That's true. Simon Jones was in Monty Python's Meaning of Life, but I guess that's just a very small role. But he apparently done lots of Broadway plays and off-Broadway plays in the 80s and 90s, and he's heavily involved in, the acting community and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he does lots of voiceover and audiobooks. And it turns out that Daniel Craig is a cousin of his. Do we have anything to add on the production and the cast and the writing and the...
Nothing's coming to mind.
Okay, so when did you first encounter Blackadder then, Steve?
Well, strangely enough, it was Blackadder III. Mm-hmm. And I think I picked up a VHS of it, ahead of it being shown on TV in Australia.
Oh, really?
I bought it in Dada's, which
on
is
import?
I assume so. This is I don't know if it's famous, but a well-known record shop, hip and happening place in Pier Street in Perth. That's where I got it, and I brought it home, and I was like, whoa, blew my mind.
Yeah.
Of course, we'd watched the young ones prior to that. And what I couldn't say at what point I actually got to see this series.
Yeah.
Might have been a fair bit further down the track.
Excellent.
What about you?
Well, it would have been when you got that videotape.
Mm.
And we really enjoyed that. Watching that out in the back room. So, yeah.
Probably just about wore it out.
I reckon so. Do you still have it to this day?
It might be in a box somewhere. It would be a hard one to part with.
Fair
A lot
enough.
of nostalgia. This is a good time to mention that we got some feedback.
Oh, more? Brilliant.
This is blowing your mind.
Okay, right, let's go.
2 episodes, 2 lots of feedback. I don't know what's going on. Chris Tates tweeted at us following the Count Arthur Strong episode, which is interesting because I never actually put out a tweet about the Count Arthur Strong episode.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, which makes it even more special. So thanks, Chris. Chris was saying that he enjoyed the episode, and he was asking me, or he sent a link to a list of the Count Arthur radio show episodes, which I thanked him for, and I had actually shared that on our Facebook page
Ah.
a few months back. Yeah, so if there's any Count Arthur fans out there who haven't listened to those,
Oh, you can pin it to the top.
pin it, yeah. Perhaps I'll pin it to the page.
Yeah, we'll pin it for a short period of time.
Yes, and then we'll unpin it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's good stuff. I said that I've listened to a few of those. Anyway, thanks a lot, Chris. That's really good to get some more news from out there.
Yeah.
And keep sending them through, guys. We always enjoy hearing from you when we do.
Very true. All right, well, let's take that good feeling into...
Good feeling.
Is that a real song?
Yeah, that's the Violent Femmes.
Courtesy of
Come on.
Dada. Yes, let's take that good vibes into the watching of this show, and so that we can come back and discuss it, and then you can put it into the Hall of Fame.
All right. Well,
Excellent.
hang on, don't get too far ahead of yourself. You never know what might happen.
Well, that's right. Okay, well, let's go.
Okay.
We sailors do not count the sea around the Cape of Good Hope. It is called the Sea of Certain Death, and no sailor has crossed it alive.
Well, an extraordinary coincidence.
What's an extraordinary coincidence?
No, it's just that I was planning a jaunt around the Cape of Good Hope myself. Leaving a week on Thursday, I think.
Really?
Yeah, so now that, sorry, I've forgotten your name. Has returned and the whole court smells of fish, I've half a mind to set off this afternoon.
If you attempt that journey, you've no mind at all.
Or perhaps a mind that knows no fear.
Is that true, Edmund? Do you know no fear?
Well, yes, I do rather laugh in the face of fear, tweak the nose of terror.
Gosh, Edmund, I've forgotten how dishy you are.
You'd never dare. Why, round the Cape, the rain beats down so hard, it makes your head bleed.
So some sort of hat is probably in order.
Okay, well, we're back and we've just watched the episode of Blackadder Potato. And I have a bit of a plot summary here, but do you have anything you want to say before I launch into this?
A couple of things after the synopsis, I think.
Yeah? Okay, so it opens up there at Edmund's house, and Percy sort of bursts in and he's all excited. And he just says, "Coming!" And Edmund Blackadder says, "No!" and kicks the door shut on him. But everyone will be there, says Percy. And, you know, he's got this wild hat on with jingly bells all over it. And Blackadder just says, "No, they won't," and kicks him out again. And anyhow, Percy reveals that the famous explorer Sir Walter Raleigh is coming home. And the whole kingdom's gathering for his return. And potato fevers sort of hit London. And everyone's hyped up about this wonder veggie.
Yep.
Except, of course, Blackadder, who doesn't like someone being more popular than him. And he's all very cynical and nasty about the whole thing. So he's not going to go and greet Sir Walter Raleigh and calls him Walter, oh, what a wally Raleigh. But Melchett turns up at Blackadder's house to see if Edmund is coming to the palace for the royal court's official reception for Sir Walter. And when Blackadder says no, Melchett says, "Well, it's probably for the best. You know, you're not very popular at court at the moment." And Blackadder can't have that.
No.
So he decides to go with Melchi. And when they get to the Queen's place, Edmund begins to badmouth Sir Walter and undermine him right off the bat before he even arrives. But the Queen doesn't really notice any of this. She's just very excited to see Sir Walter. And she's so excited that if he's really good looking, she might decide to marry him. Anyway, Sir Walter arrives and he begins to tell all of his exciting sea adventures and all the lands he's been to and things he's seen and all that sort of stuff. And, Queenie and Nursey and Melchie are all gathered round, hanging off his every word. But Blackadder's sort of hanging off in the distance. He just lets out this massive yawn. And then there's some insulting banter between him and Sir Walter. Upon hearing that no sailor has ever navigated around the Cape of Good Hope, Blackadder sort of sees his chance here to get back in the Queen's good graces. Yep. So he hastily announces that, what a coincidence, I was planning a trip around the Cape of Good Hope myself.
A jaunt.
Yeah, a jaunt, a leisurely jaunt around this deadly, unsurvivable...
Where no one's ever been before.
Yeah, exactly. But the Queen likes this. Queenie's digging it, so thus begins this deceptive plot by Blackadder. We don't know it's a deceptive plot, of course, but we can sort of hazard a guess. Anyway, now he has to follow through on what he's going to do. And he has to quickly hire a ship, and then he goes to the only captain who's crazy enough to round the Cape, Redbeard Rum. And Blackadder meets with Captain Rum in the pub in a hilarious scene, I think, and the trip is arranged. Meanwhile, Percy and Baldrick try to devise a plan for Percy to get out of going on the trip. I know we've just skipped over the whole Captain Rum meeting, but we'll get there. Yeah, because Percy is afraid of water, you see, after being savaged as a child by... I'm going to call it a small fish, but he holds his arm out a metre or so wide and says, a turbot. I've never heard of a turbot before. Maybe it's...
Well, I plugged it into Google and it says it's a pigeon of some sort.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't get it.
It's one of those pigeony fish.
Listeners?
Yeah.
Can you explain that one?
Oh, Baldrick and Percy. You don't often see them in scenes together, but they hatch this
on their
plan
own anyway.
No, not
unmediated.
Yeah, exactly. Not unmediated. So the stupid plan is to hide Percy in a box, but then Baldrick instantly ruins the plan by telling Blackadder that Percy is in the box. It's a good scene, though.
And Baldrick's actually smarter than Percy in this series.
Ready to go on the trip, Blackadder and Percy and Captain Rum and Balders, they just quickly drop in at the palace to say goodbye to the Queen before they set sail. Captain Rum somehow manages to get engaged to Nursey in the 2 minutes that they're in there.
Yep.
Melcher and Sir Walter insincerely wish the party good luck, but, they portend doom. And then Edmund does a bit of last-minute charming of Queenie.
Yep. To
ensure that when he gets back, he's in with a good chance of marrying her.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, they leave, and it sort of picks up pace from here. So they're on the ship, and after a quick round of the ha-hars, which is just brilliant, who did you think out of the three of them had the best ha-har?
Well, the captain.
All right. Well, you can't really fault that, but I'm going to go with Baldrick because he had some enthusiastic lunacy in his one. He really took it to the nth degree. Anyway, after the quick round of ha-hars...
So both of them had lunacy in them. You prefer Baldrick's lunacy.
Yeah, good point.
He was putting it on rather than...
The novelty was new to Baldrick about the ha-ha, and so he gave it everything he had. Blackadder reveals that the whole trip's basically a con, and they'll be going to just pop over to the French coast and lounge about for 6 months. And Percy says, but Edmund, surely France has already been discovered by the French for a start. Oh, dear.
My goodness.
Edmund tells Captain Rum to set sail for Calais. And so at this point, we're watching and we're going, yes, he's got a brilliant plan and it's all going to work out all right. But anyway, meanwhile, back at the palace, Queenie's missing Edmund already. It's only been a couple of days. And everyone's already getting sick of Sir Walter's adventure tales. But then we cut back to the ship and Blackadder just tells Rum to get one of the crew to sail the ship to France. Problem solved. And Captain Rum goes, crew, my lord? What crew?
Yeah. Opinion is divided on the subject.
Yeah, exactly. That's just brilliant.
Everyone else says you should have one.
Look, there's no need to panic. Someone in the crew will know how to steer this thing.
The crew, my lord?
Yes, the crew.
What crew?
I was under the impression that it was common maritime practice for a ship to have a crew.
Opinion is divided on the subject.
Really?
Yes. All the other captains say it is. I say it isn't.
Oh, God, mad as a brush.
So they realise they're alone and lost because there's no crew. And Rum doesn't know where he's going. Anyway, we jump forward 6 months. And the Queen's signing a death warrant for Sir Walter, who's sort of outworn his welcome completely. And Melchett is doing a few sums and says that according to the Blackadder expedition sailing schedule, and he's running his hand over the globe of the world and trying to figure it out, he goes that they should be nearing the urine drinking stage. Which is...
And he's spot on.
He totally is, because we cut back to the ship, yeah.
In fact, he's spot on with every one of his predictions about where they're at.
Yeah, so we cut back to the ship, and there's a brilliant scene where Percy, Baldrick and Edmund can't put off dehydration any longer, and they decide to finally drink some wee, and Edmund can't manage to actually get any going, but Baldrick fills 2 bottles, and just as they're about to drink it, Captain Rum announces landfall, and he goes off into what he thinks is Southampton docks. But Baldrick has a peek out the window and actually says, it's a volcanic island with hungry, cannibalistic natives. And then on the screen it says 2 years later. And we cut back to the Queen's throne room, I guess. And Blackadder, Percy and Baldrick burst into the throne room, safely returned, but looking a lot worse for wear. And they break bad news to Nursey that Captain Rum was eaten by the cannibals. Queenie doesn't care about any of that. She's sick of explorers by this stage. She's not very impressed. But luckily the boys win her over with a boomerang as a gift. And because Queenie does want lots of gifts, she insists they also give Melchett and Sir Walter a gift. And this catches the boys out because they haven't got anything else, and what are they going to do? But then Baldrick quickly remembers he's got some of that his water. Yeah, exactly. And Baldrick gives it to Blackadder, who offers them a bottle of, fine exotic wine, which Melchi and Sir Walter sample and appreciatively. And we know this is Baldrick's wee, and Blackadder assures them there is an inexhaustible supply.
And they like it.
They like it. So that's a nice little side hustle for Baldrick there. And the episode ends. So they, once again, get themselves into a spot of bother and then manage to improvise their way out of it.
Yep. But sure enough, he doesn't get any further ahead in the process.
No.
He's back to square one at the start of the next episode.
In the glorious sitcom tradition.
Yes.
Oh.
We've hit the reset button.
Right, I'll hand it over to you, Dave.
Oh, there's lots of gags to talk about, but a few little tidbits along the way. We've got a reference to Mrs. Miggin's pie shop, which I appreciate, and that will come to fruition in the next series.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, anyway, that's interesting.
It's another, 3 generations of Migginses down the line.
Yeah, something like that. I like Blackadder's costume. It's fully black, and it's Elizabethan with the ruff and everything like that. And on the sleeves, he's got like two black snakes winding around a dagger or something like that. It's very, very dark, and I think it matches his character quite well. How would you rate Series 2 Blackadder in terms of his character?
Completely.
Is he the darkest of the lot, the meanest of the lot?
I reckon so. Yeah, he's in a more free and powerful position in number 2 than he is in any of the other series. So he's not trapped in the trenches or trapped in servitude. So he's got a bit of leeway to do what he wants. But, the Queen could have his head cut off at any time.
Yeah, that's true. He's a bit nasty.
Yeah.
He shoots a child with an arrow. That was funny. And the last thing I had was Baldrick filling 2 bottles of wee on his own. How did he get so much? It's a bit like how did he get so much custard out of a cat?
Yeah. Oh yes.
How does he get so much wee out of himself?
Okay.
That's all I've got before we get into
the other
the rest of your stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've got a list of top gags in chronological order, and I've got just some thoughts on the character of Blackadder.
Right.
Who, when you look at him impartially, so the first line he says in this episode is no. His first action is to kick the door shut on Lord Percy, and then his second word out of his mouth is no, and then he frog marches Percy out, and he's just... Poor old Percy, he's all smiling and excited, and he's got his funny hat and all this sort of stuff, and Blackadder's just killing him with sarcasm.
Yep.
Yeah, so Blackadder's just a complete bastard, really.
Yeah, he's in full sarcastic mode.
He shouldn't be likeable at all, and he's incredibly selfish, and all he does is insult everyone, so he just insults Baldrick and insults everyone. He's not very likeable at all. And he's just the very model of a liar, a bounder, and a cad. Mm-hmm. And so why do we like him so much?
Well, probably because he's set against the Queen, who's a complete ditzy, capricious, changes their mind at the drop of a hat kind of person.
And then goes forth at the Lord Melchett, General Melchett, who's a complete ninny, who's capricious and...
Yep, and Melchett's not very likeable. I mean, he'd say anything to stay in the Queen's good books, so... Yeah, I don't know, there's no more likeable person.
That's true.
I guess Percy's... Well, maybe he's too dim-witted to be likeable.
Yeah, well, I've got some theories. I think it's because, Blackadder, he's incredibly witty. He's very quick on his feet. He's insightful in that, he can see instantly into any situation and sum things up, and, he's a good judge of character, and that's how he's able to manipulate people, because he can just see this is what that person is about, and here's a weakness in whatever system he gets dropped into that he can exploit in order to make his life easier and get as much money out of people as possible. And so he's insightful, and he's mostly unflappable because he gets put in some awful situations and he just flippantly, throws out a one-liner or something. And he's also capable of incredible charm and bravado, and he just stands apart from all the people that he's with, and he's a good improviser under pressure.
But then he does incredibly rash, stupid things as well.
Well, that's the bravado, isn't it? Yeah. But these are all the traits that most people don't have, the ability to be very, very quick-witted and charming and good improvisers and all these sorts of things. So maybe we admire those qualities. I don't know. What have you got there before I launch into some gags? Because then I figure you're going to list many of the same ones.
I've just got gags to add, so...
Yeah, well, hit me with yours and I'll fill in any gaps.
All right, well, so in the first scene with Baldrick, Blackadder's complaining about how he's got all this work to do.
Yeah.
Something along those lines, and he says, what about the people that do all the work? And Baldrick says, oh, you mean the servants? He's like, no, I'm talking about me.
Yeah. Me, I'm the people who do all the work.
Exactly. Blackadder saying how he likes to tweak the nose of...
Terror.
Tweak the nose of terror.
Everyone remembers that gag.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah. In the scene, or the interview with the captain's going through all these, ha, I bet you've never done such and such and such and such. Anyway, Blackadder at one point says, I had no idea I had to eat your ship as well when I was going to hire you. And then the captain says, I bet your legs have never been sliced clean off by such and such and such and such. And Blackadder says, oh, come on, neither of yours. And he goes, well, that's where you're wrong. And he pushes the table aside to reveal the fact that he's got no legs. This is only one of the reveals of the captain's complete ineptitude and inability. I think we've already talked about the bit where Blackadder says, "There's no need to panic. Someone in the crew will know how to steer this thing."
The crew, my lord.
What crew? Opinions divided on the subject.
That's one of the top 3 gags. Easy, in my opinion.
At the urine drinking stage, we've got the 3 guys debating whether they're going to drink each other's or their own. And I think Blackadder says to Baldrick, is the captain not joining us for the urine drinking?
For the bring a sample party?
And he says, oh no, he's been swigging his own for ages. In fact, I think he started before the water ran out. The poor captain, he's completely mad as a mongoose. I think the last one is when they're announcing that the captain's died and that he was eaten by cannibals.
Oh.
As Blackadder says, he was a third-rate sailor but a first-rate second course.
Yeah. That is good.
Yeah, that's absolutely hilarious.
Very insensitive, of course, but
yes.
Yeah, well, what can you do? That's his stock in trade.
Yep.
Oh. Well, yeah, those match up with a lot of what I had. Mm. Starting with just the second or third line. It's, Mrs. Miggins is bedridden from the nose down. Mm. And it's, I want to microanalyze these jokes, because if you're bedridden from the nose down, that's such a small percentage left.
Yep.
That
what could she possibly do?
Yeah, and yet she's going to bake a pie. But yeah, just little jokes like that are instantly funny. But then if you try and think about why they're funny, they become less funny. She's honouring the occasion in her own special way by baking a commemorative pie in the shape of an enormous pie. Which again, if you think about it, is subverting the gag, because it builds it up to be this big exciting thing that you're waiting to hear about, and then it's just a pie.
Yep.
An early gag here is bloody potatoes. People are smoking them, building houses out of them. Yeah. They'll be eating them next.
Yeah, I like that one.
And Baldrick goes, stranger things have happened. That horse becoming Pope. And another brilliant one that doesn't involve an actual line is after Blackadder's yawned and he's undermining Sir Edmund, Queenie sort of tells him off in a way, and she says, don't crowd, Sir Walter Edmund. And Blackadder just, brilliant reaction shot, and then he just looks around and takes a slight sidestep away from the position he's in. Anyway, that's a visual gag, but it's very, very good. And he didn't say a word, and yet he was sarcastic about that with just an action. And I've never come across being sarcastic with an action before.
Well, if anyone could pull it off, Rowan Atkinson's your man.
That's very true. I also had Tweak the Nose of Terror, and I'd just written down the whole Captain Rum scene, starting with this pirate cliche destroying opening 30-second me laddie. And you have a woman's legs, my lord. And then, so what they've done there is they get to not only destroy the pirate cliches and cram in like 5 stories of incredible seaborne bravery by the captain, if any of them are true, which they probably aren't, apart from the legs one. And
well, doesn't he just go in circles around the Isle of Wight until everyone's dizzy and then head home?
That's right. With no crew.
With no crew.
Oh. And he's got this dead upside-down parrot on his shoulder. And, you know, so you've got all the gags, plus backstory, plus all the insane Tom Bakery stuff, all in 2 minutes. It's super efficient writing. And, yeah, I've written down the one you had, which is, I had no idea I'd have to eat your ship as well as hire it. Oh, man. And then moving on, we've got Before Blackadder Leaves, Melchett with the brilliant, the foremost cartographers of the land, Blackadder, have prepared this for you. It's a map of the area you'll be traversing. And so Edmund unrolls the script and he's sort of looking at it and then turns it over.
This will be helpful.
It's completely blank.
Yes, it's completely blank.
And he goes, they'll be very grateful if you just fill it in as you go along. And I love that one because it's sort of a mirror of in the first episode of Blackadder II, the old, thank you, young crone, here is a purse of monies. And Edmund holds up this purse full of gold, which I'm not going to give to you, and then just walks off. So it's exactly the same technique as the purse of money gag, which I really love. So you give someone something and then snatch it away from them.
Oh, you've mentioned that one on several occasions.
It's an all-time great. But of course, the best and last one for me is the boomerang hitting Percy in the back of the head. Because Queenie gets very annoyed and goes, it's just a stick. You get rid of it. And Percy just turns his shoulder a little bit and limp-wristedly tosses it onto the floor. You don't see it hit the floor, and that's why it's so brilliant when you thwack and hits him in the back of the head. So
30 seconds later.
It required all that just casual physical acting from Tim McInnerty to totally take away the expectation it would happen.
Yeah, that had a bit of young ones to it, I think.
Anyway, that's all the reasons I think that this episode of Blackadder should go into the Hall of Fame. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I completely agree. I think it's just it's the standout episode from Series 2 for me.
Oh, brilliant. All right, well, I'm happy to hear that. Well, that wraps up episode 26 quite neatly.
Yes.
I knew I had to bring out a big gun after My Name is Earl last time, so you can't go wrong with Blackadder, and it's a very, very, very enjoyable show. All right, well, with that, we'll bid you adieu for another fortnight, and hopefully you'll join us then for whatever mystery sitcom Steve nominates.
Yeah, buy me hearties.
Join us next time on Sitcom Showdown when we'll be putting another 5-star episode under the microscope. And in the meantime, you can contact us with feedback on Facebook, Twitter @Sitcom Showdown, or by email sitcomshowdown@gmail.com.